And coming up next, we have Fresh Perspectives. The host here is well-known Dr. Smita Siddhanti. Here on this set today, Dr. Siddhanti will present some dynamic youth who are caught in a discussion on profession choices. How do young adults make choices of career? Let's find out.
Namaskar. Welcome to Fresh Perspectives. I am Smita Siddhanti and welcome you to the program today that sheds light on issues that touch our lives day to day as mothers, as parents, as professionals. Today's topic is very relevant to how we think about how we send our children to school, which schools they go, what career choices they make. And so today's topic is career choices that the youth today can make and are making, and a lot to learn for us as parents, and where they are going and what new avenues people are choosing. As some of us who came from India and are professionals know very well that the choices were limited. Either we were doctors or engineers or lawyers or teachers or professors. But today's world is opening the doors to many new avenues and new choices that none of us knew about. And so how do we prepare ourselves, our children, and how do young mothers and fathers think about what the kids ahead have done? So today let's learn from three very dynamic adults, young adults joining us: Sarina, Rohan, and Vyomika. Sarina comes to us from a high-tech industry in San Francisco. She graduated in 2010 from college, and so is Vyomika, who's also graduated from 2010 from college, and she is a journalist here in DC. And Rohan comes to us from Boston. He is just graduated this year and is a consultant in Boston. So let's hear from them, and hope you enjoy the show.
Thank you for that introduction. Hello and welcome to Fresh Perspectives, the young adult version. My name is Rohan.
I'm Sarina.
And I'm Vyomika.
And today we're going to provide for you the young adult perspective on careers. In the Indian American community, careers and your profession and how you make those choices is a very important part of our lives. It's definitely a dominant topic of conversation and how we make choices. So today we want to explore with our viewers how we make those choices, how we're moving forward in our careers, and what are the differences between their generation and ours, and sort of what we're seeing nowadays. So I want to kick us off with talking about the doctor, lawyer, engineer trifecta. Now, I'm sure you all were expecting this question coming from me, but how have things changed? We've seen them go from there, that three trifecta, into where we are now, which could be similar, could be different. Vyomika, why don't you kick us off? Tell us what you think.
Well, to begin with, none of the three of us are either a doctor, lawyer, or an engineer. So clearly things are already changing.
Tell us what you do.
I am a journalist. I work for a major news radio station in a large top 10 market.
I think we can each just say, I guess, what we do, just to make it easy. I just graduated from college, and I work at a technology consulting firm in Boston.
And I work at a high-tech company in the Bay Area. I'm actually here from San Francisco.
So obviously you have a variety here. What's interesting, though, is that I think for all three of us, we chose these fields because they were something that appealed to us, not just in terms of financial security, which is still really relevant, and which is where that whole doctor, lawyer, engineer, I think, originated from. Those are financially stable fields that will always be in demand.
Right.
And really, that's all any parent, any society wants, for their youth, is to find these jobs that are going to be around forever and ever. And so, while I think none of the three of us chose to pursue those three particular fields, we are still in fields that have high career growth,
right,
that are financially stable and successful. And I know that I considered that personally before I joined the company I joined. It was a major factor for me. So
Yeah.
I think we're seeing a version of that.
Right.
Yeah, Vyomika, what that really comes down to, I think, for each one of us and then for our community as a whole, is our risk-taking propensity. How likely are we to make a risk either with our career or the amount of money we're willing to make? And like you just said, I think we've become less risk averse than our parents were.
Definitely.
But still not necessarily, I would argue, as risk averse as other cultures and societies are. I think Indian Americans still do put a lot of emphasis on, providing that financial security for your families or for yourself.
Serena and I have been working for a while. Rohan, you just started.
Right.
So how was that decision-making process for you?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting decision-making process. It's definitely a very personal one. You have to blend not only your own interests, but also the financial considerations. So for some people, that's more important than others. I know for myself, both were equally important, but the financial one did motivate me to go in certain situations, go in certain careers. Other people might make a different choice. I think that what Sarina said is definitely very true in the fact that while the Indian American community has come along that sliding scale towards the risk propensity, it's a gradual process, right? So we all make those choices based on a variety of factors. But something else I want to get into is how do we sort of make our moves now that we're in the workforce? So I have just only been working for a couple of months, but I'm interested to know, so our parents' generation is that sort of 2-3 jobs, one career path, one type of career, 2-3 jobs, 2-3 companies perhaps, right? We're looking at something where 6, 7, 10 even, different companies, couple years here, couple years there, and that's just not Indian Americans, and that's this generation, but that has a special impact on our community where they might say, oh, he was working here, but now he works there, and now she does this, right? How do we play that?
I mean,
Go ahead, yeah.
Serena and I are both already considering our next moves. We're both likely to apply to graduate school and make a transition, and we've only been working for 2 or 3 years. So I think, like you're saying, there is much more of there's much more of an inclination to seek new opportunities and to keep educating ourselves, making sure that we are well informed. I think there's also much more flexibility, though, in today I specialize in one thing, tomorrow I can go specialize in something else. I don't need to be labeled, or I don't need to be on that trajectory. And maybe that's a risk. I think that's also chasing opportunities, something that we have the luxury of doing.
Yeah.
You're right. I very much think, again, that it's related to risk, and it's related to our ability to say, I'm willing to start over again at having worked 2 years in one field to start in another field and climb up in that. And just on this point, I actually watched a really interesting speech on YouTube that was given by Sheryl Sandberg, who people probably know as the COO of Facebook currently. And she gave an address at Harvard Business School at their commencement in 2012, where she addressed that going through your career historically has been, the analogy has been that it's the ladder, that you climb this career ladder. And I see that, I think my parents think about careers that way to some extent, or people in their generation do. And now that it's actually the more appropriate analogy is that your career is like a jungle gym, that you are jumping from place to place. And that's exactly, Vyomika, what you were saying, that both of our careers are looking like right now. Before what I do before graduate school may or may not be at all related to, so I'm planning to go to business school, may or may not be at all related. I could use business school as a complete transition to a field I've actually never done before.
Now, speaking on that point, although I currently work in consulting, I am totally open to going to any kind of graduate school, whether it's a communications or law school or business school. There is that path, that track idea, which I think has sort of been ingrained in us, or maybe as our sort of the Indian American society is ingrained, is becoming less and less so. But can we try to figure it out? Is that a function, that choice, right? Do you think that's a function of the Indian American community having come a long way from where they were and now across the spectrum? Or do you think that choice and that ability is more a function of just we happen to be this generation of Americans and that's true for everyone? That, which one is it? Can we tease those apart?
I think it's made possible by financial security. I think that taking chances, making risks is only possible when you feel like you have a foundation.
Yeah.
And so that's what our parents have given us.
Right.
And I think that mentality, I would want that same for my children. I think the idea of being somewhat non-traditional, I mean, I am definitely in a career that you would consider non-traditional, I think, for most Indian Americans.
Sure.
I think doing that is possible because I'm chasing my passion. And making a move like that, you can only really do when you're not worried about putting food on the table every day.
Right.
And so,
yeah, Vyomika, what you just said about chasing your passion is really what this whole conversation is about. It's to what extent is one going to make a trade-off in their career between what they're passionate about and what will be lucrative for them financially, and do we have to make that trade-off? Are there careers where we can pursue both, or do we have to prioritize between them? And to answer that in light of the Indian American community, one thing I can say, for example, my parents have always asked me is, one thing my dad always says is, what would you do if you weren't getting paid for it anymore? If you weren't getting paid anything, would you continue doing the career you're doing? And I think all three of us could answer that question. For example, I could say, maybe not. Maybe I wouldn't be doing this. If I was being paid zero for anything, maybe there's something else I would choose to do. Maybe you guys can answer the same question, and we can look at ourselves and say, to what extent have we actually taken a risk?
That's definitely an interesting one. I also want to try to figure out, just get a guess from you guys. Try to see what you guys think about this. Our parents had a certain amount of risk-taking propensity and had a certain type of jobs. We have a certain risk-taking propensity, certain type of jobs. Just let me hear your guesses for this next generation, our kids and that generation. Do you think it's going to be that we're going to have a generation of kids who could just absolutely have the total freedom of choice? Or do you think we're going to have a generation of kids where we're slowly still going to be coming down across that spectrum? We're still going to have a 40% graduation rate of doctors, and we're still going to have those sort of things are still going to exist. Just try to look into the crystal ball for me.
I don't know that I can prognosticate something like that, but I think maybe the Indian in me would be a little worried if my kid said, I'm going to go off and be an awesome painter, and I'm going to say, oh, hey, are you going to be living in my basement?
And that's a great thing to say. Yeah, it's a great perspective.
Right. No. I think whether this relates to Indian Americans or not, one thing I do want to bring up here in the question that you've asked is the influence of the internet and of social media, because I think we can't get away from the fact that is dynamically changing the workforce that we're active in right now, because the world is becoming so much more connected, so much more globalized, so many more opportunities are becoming available to us through, whether it's even things like Facebook or LinkedIn or whatnot. And I think as that continues to grow, we're going to find our kids in a very different work environment than we are currently, just like our parents are finding us right now.
And something else we haven't addressed today is that what I have seen from my personal experience, my friends, I've seen them join those traditional roles, so maybe an investment banking job or something like that, some type of business analyst role for that 2 years, and then they try something else, they try something they love, because they know they've set themselves up, they've started their career, take the risk and jump back. Now that, I don't think you would have seen that 25 years ago, and I'm really happy to start seeing that now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's something I did as well.
Great. Well, thanks again, both of you, for coming on today, Sarina and Vyomika. My name is Rohan. Thank you to our viewers for sticking through the segment and getting that fresh perspective on careers and professionalism in the Indian American community. Hope to see you again sometime soon.
Thank you, Sarina, Rohan, and Vyomika. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. It is very refreshing to hear from the young adults themselves, since we all wonder where our kids are going. And so this is hopefully shed some new light to all of us. And if you have, please send your comments. I would be delighted to hear from you. Send us your comments or your thoughts to freshperspectives@gmail.com. And I hope to see you next time. Namaskar.